Hello, my name's Sally and I'm the Director of Quality at Sheffield Health and Social Care Trust. And I'm going to talk to you about a new post that we are advertising for a lead for our quality strategy and with a focus on co-production. So to support people to apply, I've made this little video to talk through the job description and also how to apply. So I'm going to share the application form first. So this is the application form and we've made it in an accessible way, and you will find this on the links within the social media links that we're sharing, both from the trust and we're sharing it across partners as well. We will pop in the date that you need to have this application back to us by, so that's really important because we won't accept applications after that date. Once you've filled this in, this is a Word document, you can email it back, or if you prefer, we will be filling out an address for you to post it back. Bear in mind, if you're posting it back, you might want to post it a couple of days before the closing date. It's important we receive it in good time, but if possible, do use the email. The other option is if you're struggling either with email or to post, you can talk to us and we will see around whether you'll be able to drop it off at one of our sites. You only need to apply in one way. You don't need to complete multiple forms. We're also going to put telephone numbers on for staff that you can contact if you need help completing this form, and you can leave us a message and we'll ring you back. So like all applications, we need your name, we need an email address if you've got one, because it's helpful for us to contact you through email, but if not, a telephone number, because we'll want to tell you and talk to you about our thoughts about your application form and whether we want to proceed to an interview. Because this is the lived experience post, we would like to know if you use services or if you are a family member or carer or significant person of a person who uses services, because that's really important. We're going to look at the job description and the what we call the specification in a minute, but this now application is about giving you the opportunity to write down the things that help us understand why you would be a good person to undertake this role. So we want to hear about the things that you're really good at, and when you're writing this, it is important you think about the job description and the person's specification. So you might be really good at baking, but that might not be something that you want to talk a lot about in your application form. You might more want to tell us about how good you are at communicating with people, how you work with people from all types of backgrounds, different cultures, etc., so that we understand how well you are able to work with different people and different communities. We'll ask you about your experience, so what are you doing now? How might that actually link to this role and make you somebody that we really want to talk to about working with us? So it's important to think about experience. We would like to know a little bit about education, but that would include development. So not all education is actually formal qualifications. You can tell us about different types of training you've had, or you might have been to college to do something, or some late learner type development that you've done. So anything that would kind of class under development. We will need references. References are really important for us, and we will need two. And we've given you some hints there about the people that could do that. But what you can't do is use a family member as a referee, because that would be seen as not really being unbiased. So hopefully they would say nice things about you, but we need somebody who's a little bit more distant. So that's our application form. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the post now. Excuse me while I'm sharing. And I'll make this a little bit bigger. Here we go. So, as I said at the beginning, this job is around supporting us with our quality strategy, and in the links you will see we've attached the overview of our new quality strategy that was approved by our trust board. This is paid at a band 7, so that's quite a senior role in this organisation, and it is for 1 day a week, but you can work that 1 day a week we'll negotiate that with you. It might be within the month that actually the work that we've got to do means you might need to work 3 days in one particular week, and then maybe have a couple of weeks where you don't work, but it will average out as 1 day per week. You report to our head of clinical quality standards. That's a person called Sue, who works in my team, but the post is accountable to me as the director of quality because I've got oversight of the quality strategy. And we think that this post will last for around 2 years because a strategy is a big piece of work and isn't something that you do quickly. We've talked a little bit about our values in there, and then we've summarised the job. What I have done is just added an accessible summary that really focuses in on the key elements, because we do use a lot of NHS words and jargon sometimes, and in part that's to help us make sure that we get the right grading for the job. So all of our job descriptions go through a process, but sometimes that does mean that the language we use can feel a little bit exclusive because we don't always talk in plain English. So what I've done here in the red element is just really focus in on what is this job about. Well, as I've said, we're looking for someone with lived experience who's used our services and is able to work with people across our organisation and into Sheffield to help us implement our quality strategy. And you'll help us think about and make sure that all the work we do is done with people who use services and people who care for people using our services. So we don't want co-production to be a buzzword. We want to actually do it really well. And to do that, we need people with lived experience to tell us how we can best work across our services and with the population of Sheffield. So you will work closely with a smaller number of staff because in our strategy there are key people leading particular pieces of work. So you need to be able to work with key individuals, but also you will be attending broader meetings with all sorts of people from across our organisation, but probably from other organisations as well. So maybe the local authority, maybe into Health Watch, probably with Flourish are one of our partners. So really important that you're able to feel comfortable sat in a room with other people, or use things like Microsoft Teams or Zoom. And we want you to help us think about how we can understand and share in a measurable way the difference it's making. So we don't just want to say, well, we're doing this, we need to be able to show it. So we need to think about, how do you show what good quality is, and how do you demonstrate that to others, because that's part of our job. We then, in the job description, go on to talk about key responsibilities. Again, I've summarised that. One of the things to know is that when you're working in these types of posts, people haven't always had a good experience in Sheffield, and so sometimes you're going to hear stories about people not receiving a good experience of care. Now, that's something that obviously we're clearly committed to changing and to ensuring that everybody gets a good experience of care. But you are going to have to listen to times when that hasn't been right, it hasn't been acceptable, and that can be difficult. It can be difficult personally to hear about somebody's distress and how we've not met their needs, but also in the context of working in an organisation where that's not happened as well. So we will support you because we all struggle with that from time to time. We also need somebody who's going to be respectful of different people, different cultures, to make sure that they work in an inclusive way and think about everybody and how we can be inclusive and actually tackle some of the barriers and stigma that stop people in Sheffield using our services. We really want you to be a really good role model for other people with lived experience to think about joining us, because we are growing our roles and that's really important to us, and also to encourage more volunteers to work with us, to recognise that Sheffield Health and Social Care Trust is a good place to come and volunteer and to get involved and help us with our co-production. And in summary, that means you will be a leader in this organisation. So it's really important that you feel comfortable and confident as a leader, but we will help you with that. Just some other key points. You do need to be able to write reports. It is a senior post, but we'll help you with that. We'll help you with the language. I've talked about the NHS jargon. You do need to be able to work with others, and we want somebody who can think creatively. So you're welcome to challenge us and make us think about doing things differently. You will need to help some of our teams think differently, and that might be a challenge as well. And you need to be able to use a computer, be able to use email, and be clear around confidentiality for people who use services and their families. So that's a little bit about the job. I'm just going to finish with going back to what might be helpful to write in your application form. Now, this form might look a little bit off-putting. It's called a person specification, and once again, it's the NHS language for this document particularly helps with how we grade our jobs. So it's difficult to make it in an accessible format. So what I'm hoping to do is highlight key things that you can write in your application that will help us to see how you meet this. I'll just make that a little bit bigger. So if you can in your application talk about how you understand the importance of having people involved in our work as a trust and what co-production means to you, that would be really good to set out in your application. If you have got experience of working in groups or teams or working in other organisations, write a little bit about that as well, because that will help us see how you're able to work in different settings. If you have any understanding about involvement as the public or patients in not just in health, it can be in other areas like the local authority, or it might be, you know, I don't know, working into the police or fire, I don't know, anyway, but talk about that and how you understand and what your experience has taught you about working into an organisation, particularly if you're able to bring that lived experience element. Tell us how you prioritise and plan your day. So this talks about workload, but actually it might be at the moment that you've not worked for a little bit because of your mental health issues. So tell us instead about how you prioritise your day and how you set those things out. We recognise that we're not, necessarily looking for somebody who's already in a job working at that level, but you will have those skills around how you set your day out and how you make sure you get the things done that you will do. So it'd be important for you to tell us about that. Tell us about how you get on with people. Tell us about the different groups of people that you hopefully link in with. So that might be friends and family, it might be some community work you do, it might be you're already working as a volunteer, but just tell us about those different experiences. If you understand anything about confidentiality, you could maybe just put a sentence or two in about what confidentiality means to you and why that's important. We've talked a little bit about training qualifications on the form. As I say, have a think about it and think about what you could put down, but don't worry too much. Instead of qualifications, we can look at the experience you've got, and that's life experience and all those other things we've talked about. So do think about how you are able to demonstrate that. So for example, because we do need you to write reports, you might not have a qualification that demonstrates you can write a report or an assignment, but that maybe maybe you've done the church newsletter and you've produced that for a year. So talk about that, because that's important for us to know, and then we know that you have those skills. Our experience, say the qualification is that you have used our services or that you are a carer. That's really important to us. And what we don't expect in the application form is for you to share all of your lived experience. That's not what we're looking for. And I have to stress that this role is not about you continually sharing your own personal story. We recognise that can be distressing and traumatic. It's about how you use that experience to influence us and influence others rather than retelling your story. So don't feel you need to put that in the application form, but perhaps just one line to say, I have used the recovery services, for example. And that really, I'm hoping, demystifies the person specification. So when you look at it, don't be too worried about, oh, this looks really overwhelming. So I'm hoping that video helps anybody who's interested in our post. As I say, there will be contact numbers on the application form, that if you are struggling, please do give any one of us on that form a ring. Please make sure you submit it by the due date. And I'm really excited and hope that you know that you will apply for this post. So thank you.